Afternoon, another video in the car. I was just thinking then, as I was waiting for the builders to drive past, I might start up a little series called Car Thoughts, because I don't want every video to be done in the car. Certainly not every video done in the car with me with a shit moustache and my sunglasses on. However, there's going to be a few. So anyway, welcome to the channel, East Meets West. Today's topic is another sports related one. Sports? I don't know, to say sports, plural, with the S on the end sounds very, very American. I might have to leave that one. Sport. Ah, there we go. Another sport related one. So today, Garnacho, Manchester United, football, Premier League, shirts. Now, Garnacho has been caught. I say been caught, he did not hide it, he published it himself. Posting a photograph of himself wearing an Aston Villa shirt, albeit with number 9 Rashford on the back, who Rashford is a teammate of Garnacho's. For those not in the know, hopefully I'm starting to attract some different people to the channel viewing this, maybe those who are just into rugby and the UFC. Marcus Rashford, one of the most famous football players in the country, to be honest, has been on loan for the second half of the season to Aston Villa. Now, Garnacho, obviously a pal of Marcus Rashford's, has donned an Aston Villa shirt as a current Manchester United player who has not been loaned out. We're in the off season now. A current player on the payroll at Manchester United has donned the shirt of another club. Not a direct rival, not a Manchester City or a Liverpool, or in days gone by an Arsenal or a Chelsea. Granted, still a direct competitor. Villa have sort of gone from strength to strength the last couple of years. Manchester United have plummeted. So, for maybe not at the minute, but they did sort of have that little sweet spot in the middle. And obviously, Aston Villa played Manchester United on the final day of the season. Now, I must start by saying I am not a great lover of either club. I have not laughed at Manchester United, but their demise has been somewhat comforting, somewhat of interest, of intrigue. As a Newcastle United fan, you know, I grew up, even before I sort of got into football and was given that Newcastle shirt as a 12, 13-year-old, I was still aware of Manchester United's dominance, you know, league after league after league. I can remember not long after I started supporting Newcastle back in 2007, watching Manchester United. It was either that season or the season after, smack 6 goals past Newcastle with Ronaldo and Rooney on fire. And so I've got no great love for Manchester United. Indeed, Aston Villa. Aston Villa, for a period of time, seemed linked, intrinsically linked to Newcastle United failure, whether that be players falling out and scrapping each other on the pitch, whether that be one of the most well-loved managers of Newcastle United's history getting sacked after Villa being his last game, whether that be Sob on the Tyne laughing at Newcastle when they got relegated. The list is endless. However, I do respect both those clubs. Now, why has Garnacho done it? Now, let's peel it back a little bit. So, you could argue, is it in support of his pal? You know, obviously he's been given Rashford, whether he's got that shirt for him or he's bought that shirt to support his mate, whatever, whilst Rashford was on loan. Fair enough, buy one, have one at home, have it on the wall, have it in the wardrobe, have it in the loft, whatever you want to do. But to wear it in public whilst you're employed by another Premier League team, strange. Now, is it to cause problems? Is it because Rashford has had a very public falling out with fucking hell, Ten Hag and Amorim, especially Amorim? Garnacho has had a very famous falling out with Amorim, left him out of the Europa League final squad, I believe, or was it the last game, the last Premier League game? I forget which. Might have been both. and has hinted that both players, they're looking to be moved on. Now, is this just to wind people up and cause trouble? If so, it's disrespectful to the fan base and the club, regardless of whether they get on with the manager or the staff, the owners, whatever. It's that badge, that crest, that institution, and more importantly, the fans who pay money to come and watch you play. And in the example of Marcus Rashford and Garnacho, Manchester United, those fans have been paying a hell of a lot of money for the last 4 or 5 years in particular to watch shite. By their standards, absolute rubbish on the pitch, particularly this last season, abysmal. So, is he doing this to wind people up, to try and cause a narrative, just try and stir up trouble? People still look at Garnacho. I have people, when it comes up when you're talking with your mates about football or whatever. Oh, he's only a young lad. I think he's 21. So he's been an adult for 3 years. He's lived in this country for a long time. He's come through the Man United Academy, which makes it even worse. And I believe he's got a child. So, you know, a lot of footballers, because of the money they have, you know, that their wives, girlfriends, partners, whoever, typically don't have to work all the time. You know, they don't have to have a 9-to-5 job, so they can have children a lot earlier. And, you know, they've got a lot more money. You all know I've got 2 children myself. Having kids is expensive. So he's got a child, he's a father, so he's not a kid, he's not a young lad. Oh, he's just a young lad, he didn't mean anything by it. No, he's a fucking adult, he's a man. I mean, he's not behaving like one, but he is, or should be. There is on the other side of the coin, because Manchester, despite what you think of him, and this is the same for Marcus Rashford, Garnacho is a talent. Natural talent. You don't score goals like that over a kick against Everton unless you've got something about you. I can remember him coming on, scoring that goal against Fulham in the 22-23 season. Fantastic. He is a talented lad, there's no doubt about it, and Manchester United will not be, or are going to attempt to not be, bent over regarding the price tag. So, and this is like conspiracy time, is Garnacho doing that to drive down his price? Because other clubs will be looking at Manchester United, will be ringing him up going, you clearly don't want this lad, he doesn't want to be there, do you really want to play hardball over a transfer fee? Of course that works both ways, because a buying club, let's take my own club, Newcastle, as an example. We're not linked with Garnacho, but hypothetically, for the purposes of this, if Newcastle were looking, if Eddie Howe and whoever's in charge of transfers at the minute, I have no idea, I think it's Eddie and his brother, we're in the market for a player of Garnacho's profile. Obviously he's done alright against us. When we demolished them 4-1 at SJP, he scored a good goal. We're looking for a player of that profile. I'm thinking about, right, God, he clearly doesn't want to be there. Manchester United are trying to offload him. He's causing a ruckus, causing a scene, causing problems. Can we leverage a deal? Can we exploit that? Yes, would be the answer, more than likely. However, the flip side would be, do you really want a character like that at your club? This is the debate I've been having with a couple of friends of mine, both Newcastle fans, over Marcus Rashford. Myself and my mate Brad have spoken about Rashford loads of times. He thinks he would be a good fit at Newcastle. Another friend of mine, Stretch, who I've met recently, said that we're linked with Rashford, and you know, Eddie can do things with him and da 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 da. I'm unsure. Do you really want a character like that at your club? Like when we first got taken over, it was all the stupid rumours about Neymar and Mbappe. Even if they were on the table as real options, why would you want that? Why would you want the media negative attention, the drama, the shit attitude? You know, if you're prepared to put up a picture of yourself as a current Manchester United player wearing another team's kit and post it. Not just get snapped by the paparazzi and it's like, oh, silly, should have known better, but it's not his fault. He hasn't tried to project that. He's chosen, or someone from his team has chosen to put that out there for the world to see. Do you really want that? Like, if he's going to do that at Manchester United, let's be honest, Manchester United are a much bigger club than Newcastle. Hopefully, one day that will not be the case, but right now it is, very much. Who's to say he won't do that? If he doesn't have respect for the institution of Manchester United, now, Man United is being run like a circus, and has been for some time, but if he doesn't have the respect for the institution that is Manchester United, or what should be an institution, how can you hang your hat and say that he's going to respect Newcastle? No, Newcastle have, I wouldn't say a fierce rivalry with sound like Jonathan Ross then, rivalry, a fierce rivalry with Aston Villa, but it's certainly a team we do not want to lose against, and there has been aggro between the fans in the past. And not just that, they're a direct rival of Newcastle's, competitive rival, similar sized club. You could argue Aston Villa are bigger because of European Cups or European Cup, but in terms of league position, you know, we were in the Champions League, then they were in the Champions League the next season. We went to Castor for a kit production, they went Castor, we went Adidas, they went Adidas. We wanted Emery, they got Emery. Similar league positions, yeah. So you can see where I'm coming from. Now, if he was to wear an Aston Villa shirt whilst at Newcastle, fans are not forgiving that. I mean, it's not like wearing a Sunderland shirt, but Jesus Christ, how can you trust that? How can you trust a player? Now, I've said to these guys, look, if a player like that was to come in with a shit attitude, Eddie would sort it through his managerial acumen. If not, you'd like to think characters like Jamal Lascelles, Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, Dan Burn would soon sort that out on the training ground. I have no doubt about that. Similar sort of thing with Marcus Rashford. How can you trust a player? Now, I know he was under a hell of a lot of pressure at Manchester United, come through the academy, all the stars have gone, Pogba's not worked, Lukaku's gone, apart from Bruno Fernandes, he's their main attacking player. And I get the pressure that comes with that, with the size of a club like Manchester United, I understand. However, how can you trust a player who down tools entirely at his boyhood club and said he wanted a new challenge? To me, that is vile. Might be a strong word, too strong a word. Unacceptable, unforgivable. How about you take on the challenge of trying to stop your club from free falling down the table? Your boyhood club, the club who's given you everything, the club who pays your bloody wages, £300 a week, no less. So, all right, a fresh start, new challenge, new people, but I can't let go of that. How can you trust a player like that who's just completely, like, if the shoe was on the other foot, let's have a think. So Newcastle haven't got a Geordie who's come through the academy as one of their most high-profile players. Let's take Sean Longstaff, for example. Or let's fast forward the clock 6 years. Lewis Miley, 24-year-old, should be, in six years' time, one of the best midfielders in the league. Certainly one of the best English midfielders in the league. He's got everything. Now, if Newcastle hit a rocky patch and the likes of Isak, Bruno, Joe Linton and Tonali have all moved on, and here we are, have this crown jewel of a player come up through the academy who goes, do you know what, I fancy out of here. And it's not just the words, the performances. We all remember the Manchester United come to St James's Park, not this season, just gone the season before, when Anthony Gordon scored 1-0. And Marcus Rashford was useless in that game. absolutely useless. Not in terms of the quality on the ball, although that offered nothing, but the lack of effort was. I didn't even. I mean, I'm a Newcastle fan watching that on telly, praying for him to not jog back, praying for him to put in zero effort. But even that, even for me, it wasn't funny. It was sad. So can you imagine? How can you trust a player like that? And that's what I'm getting at with Garnacho. If he is doing this to engineer a move, whoever's giving him that advice, in the short term, that might be good advice to get him out of the club, but in the long term, I don't think so, because who's going to trust him? And yeah, he's young enough to change, okay, but to me, as soon as you have a child, your maturity should skyrocket. Now, I know his missus is probably at home with the kid 24/7, and they got nannies and everything under the sun available to them because of the money he can provide. However, that's a very immature way to behave, and you can't trust that. I wouldn't feel comfortable trusting that player in that situation. There we go. We're on 16 minutes, a bit longer than I wanted to. It's only meant to be a quick one. However, I've listened to TalkSport's coverage on it, and I felt like I needed to say something about Garnacho. It is unforgivable wearing another team's shirt. Now, you could compare it to when you're talking about players' wages and player loyalty. The argument that always comes up, if you're on 20 grand at Tesco and Asda come down the road, knock on and say, we'll offer you 25 grand, you're going to go to Asda. Of course you would. Well, why would you not? It's a ridiculous argument to say no. And why should loyalty in football be any different? But it is totally different. Totally different. And in this instance, if you were a Tesco employee and you went out, I don't know why this situation would ever come about, but if your mate from Asda give you an Asda fleece to wear and you saw your manager from Tesco, would that be the end of the world? They'd probably have a good moan at you, but no, it wouldn't. Interesting. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully more football videos coming up soon. It's my third video of the week, one a day. No doubt I'll do one tomorrow, Friday, as well. Keep the content rolling. Thank you. Cheers.